do that, bring that up. I'll give you an idea. I don't either, that's why I do.
10 seconds. Oh,
No?
absolutely. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Those that are able, if you join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. And good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, February 21st, 2023. It is 9 o'clock. This is the county boardroom and the county board meeting. And first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look for a motion for,
So
to
moved.
approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion? Second? Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Our next item of business is going to be employee recognition. I am going to look to our administrator and take it from there, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's another wonderful way to start off a board session. Gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity. Morrison County prides itself in the work that we do in our community and for our residents. Our heart and soul of our organization are the employees that comprise it. With over 300 employees, the average time serving Morrison County is over 10 years. That's no small feat, and it's something to be said about the environment and the conditions that are set by our supervisors and our peers, and for those that serve the county. We wouldn't be who we are today without the people that are behind the counter serving those that are out in our community. I'm grateful and privileged to be part of that organization, and today we're going to recognize 12 employees with over 145 years of service to our county, which is impeccable. Previously, we had done this once a year, but we're looking to do it quarterly for a more constant reminder of the dedication of our employees, and we're fortunate to have them. So for everybody here today, thank you for being here to support and witness this. For those employees, what we'll do is we'll call you off based on your years of service, starting with 5, 10, 15, 20. I will read off all of the names. I know some aren't able to be here today, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to recognize them. Once I call you off, by your batch, so the first 3 here for 5 years of service, I'd ask that you join the board up here for a photo, and then we'll move on to 10, and so on. At the end of it, we'll take a large group photo with everybody who's here present today. And then before you leave, on the table you'll notice some apparel and some envelopes. For those that are recognized today, they are eligible and receiving a token of appreciation from the county. There is a choice between Morrison County apparel or chamber bucks, and that is based on the number of years that are served. So, without further ado, is Joe Tobin here? Bree Mickelson, I saw Bree. 5 years of service. Thank you, Bree. Appreciate it. And Ethan. Thanks for being here, Ethan. Appreciate it. Congratulations. Please join me in a round of applause for our 5-year recipients.
Congratulations.
Commissioners, if you guys could shift just a little bit more. There
Are
you
you
go.
saying we're eating too much?
I got a good job. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. One more round of applause, please. Thank you. And I see a lot of folks in 10, but I didn't see Austin chirping. 10 years. And Randy Wilmus. Randy and the crew in the back have already been out on the roads this morning, and they're gearing up for a fun next couple days. Thanks, Randy. Congratulations. And Andrew Jansen. AJ.
Thanks for your work, man. Thank you, Randy.
What did I miss? Congratulations. Thank you. Brad Bolton, there you are. Right here, front and center.
Thanks for your work.
Here, she's taking a photo here.
I did it, Mom.
All right, a round of applause for a 10-year. Yeah, I know. It's a different group.
They make big snow plowers. I'm gonna stand on his shoulder.
How do we do this, huh?
Well, I think everyone, if you could take a half a step, everybody,
Find a hole.
please. Yep,
Jeez.
better.
That's
Everybody smile. Thank you.
awesome. Thank you. Please, one more round. And I don't think Diane is here, so Hasten for a 15-year recipient. Congratulations. Looking sharp. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Where in the heck did that time go? Congratulations, buddy.
Just one?
There we go.
Just the
Diane
one, yeah.
is me.
All right, round of applause for Hasten. And for our 20-year recipients, Miss Katie Canettle. Congratulations, Katie. Thank you for what you're doing. Toby Schneider with 20 years.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
And where did that time go? Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations, Toby. Appreciate it. And Kenny Luke Savage.
Toby, congratulations.
Thanks for all the work, Toby. Appreciate it.
Good work.
Thanks.
Congratulations, Ken. Quick 20, not bad. 20 more to go. All right, round of applause for 6 years of service.
Congratulations, Kenny. Okay.
Okay, we'll hold you up there. Everybody who was recognized, please come on up and join our 20-year recipients for group photo. Oh, Roxy.
Maybe you wanted to kneel down.
Good, how are you?
Let's get the tall guys in chairs. That's a good idea, yeah.
He knew, he didn't tell you.
That's,
Oh, okay.
I'm around. I'm everywhere.
Tabby, get them organized.
Yeah. Two tall guys. Three tall guys.
Good idea.
There we go, perfect.
Scrunch together, you guys.
Okay, yep, scrunch a little
Is that
bit.
perfect? My high heels.
Okay, let's see. Let's have Randy scooch about a half step, there you go. Let's see, and then, I think, let's see.
I think
Officer Warnberg.
yeah. Hasten,
maybe
can you go to the other
over
end?
to the other side, yep.
On the other side of Bree. And then Ethan, come forward in front of Bobby there. And next to Kenny. Bobby will get in between. Yep. There, that's right.
There you go.
Is that perfect or is that?
There we go. I think that should be good. All right. I'll do a couple here just in case somebody blinks or something. 1, 2, 3. I'll do one more here. 1, 2, 3.
You didn't blink, did you?
Will you press that mic right in front of you? Will you press it down?
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. 145 years of service. Thank you. Kenny, good job. Appreciate it. Thank you. Kenny, be careful out there. Good to see you again, Toby. Nice job. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Hi, Bree.
Where am I here now? This is me. Going back home to bed.
Yeah, all right. Okay, thanks for coming in. Thank you.
See you, Dougie.
All right, employee recognition is done. Very nice, a very good job. Thank you, Matt. Our next item of business is going to be the approval of our consent agenda. Commissioners, does anybody have anything that they want to talk about on the consent agenda?
Not
that
me.
we want to pull?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Got a motion?
Second.
And a second, and that is pretty much the end of the discussion because we've talked about it. This is a roll call. I would look to Commissioner Lemire,
Aye.
Wincher. Aye. Blaine.
Aye.
Casper. Aye. And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, is an aye vote. That motion passes. We'll move right down the line to item number 6, Health and Human Services. I'm going to look to Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Good morning, Brad. Good morning, Brad. So this morning I have with me Bonnie Bachin, and she supervises our collections unit. And so this morning we just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing in collections and then some legislative change that might affect future collections. So,
Good morning.
Good morning, Bonnie.
Morning, Bonnie.
So just a few things. Our first slide here is showing some of the tasks of the collections officer, and Steve Kostoris is our collections officer. He does a great job. One of the things that doesn't show in numbers, of course, is the needed human side of talking to people in these situations. A lot of times, families are not aware of debts and such, so it can be a difficult situation, but Steve handles that really well. So we're thankful and appreciative to have him here. So the first graph that actually is showing some money is our overall estate recovery for MA. So out of these monies, the county receives 25%, the state receives 25%, and the federal government receives 50%. So this is our largest collections category, and our over $437,000 this year is our largest ever. Well, I shouldn't say ever, in my tenure here, so 4 years. It's an increase of over 120% from last year. And the numbers that just came in last week are out of our 87 counties in Minnesota. Morrison is 32nd according to population, yet our collections in this category were number 13 overall in the state. All right, the next one is showing the additional public assistance claims that we collect on. So these numbers include childcare, food support, MFIP, general assistance, housing, and such. And we receive 13 to 50% based on the particular program. Next is our other categories that we receive collections on, which is detox, county burial, foster care, and interest that we collect. So that for the year was just over $157,000. And then the last one is showing our total projections and our actual collections. So overall, the 636,165 is nearly more than 69% over last year. So obviously, we never know where the numbers are going to come in at, but this is a big change, a lot of money for us, so. And Steve is responsible for most of that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
If I could just have you back up one slide. So if you look at the graph on the far right, one of the legislative proposals for this year is counties no longer being able to collect for out-of-home placement costs. Last legislative session, it actually did change from a shall to a may. We are still continuing to collect on foster care placements. The state and advocacy groups are looking at ways that we could not impoverish families any further than what they are. A lot of the families in out-of-home placement, of course, are lower income. And so this could be a loss for Morrison County in 2023 or 2024, depending upon which way it goes. Right now, they are talking about how to backfill some of those losses with the counties, but it is one of those things that we are paying attention to and keeping an eye on relative to our costs. As you can see, for us, it's about $140,000 on average over the last 3 years. So it could have an impact on our 2023 budget.
Excellent. Bonnie, I wonder,
sorry.
Bonnie, I wonder if you can give me a quick example of collections. Give me a quick example of how we arrived at $636,165 on an individual person.
Okay, so I'll go with the MA estate recovery. That's our biggest collections area. So when persons over the age of 55 apply for medical assistance, they assign their rights to their estate to be looked at the time of death for reimbursement to the government.
Okay?
So, at the time of passing, we're notified, and we check all that, make sure the age is correct, and everything falls into the category. So then the state has guidelines of what is allowable for funeral expenses and such. So if a person prior to their death has a policy set up with one of our local funeral homes and lays out what their wishes are, that can be handled 100% according to their wishes.
Okay.
If they don't have that in place, or if things go above and beyond, we start to look at what is allowable. The state does not allow things like memorial cards. So if they're including that in their expenses, we have to disallow that. So we go through step by step for all of the things that the state does and does not allow. We get a report from the state showing how much was expended on this person's behalf for medical assistance. So we're required then to look at this. So once we see, let's say that they have $50,000 that has been spent. So that entire $50,000 could be collected by us. It just depends on what they have. So we will put holds on checking and savings accounts. If there is life insurance, if it's above and beyond what the funeral expenses are, that becomes an asset of the estate. And property as well. So if someone owned a home and there is not enough in checking, savings, those other things, to be able to meet that $50,000 collection mark, then we would look at that property. So we, sometimes in those cases, we have to file probate. So we're appointed then as the personal representative for the probate action and go through the courts for that part. But we never collect more than has been expended.
Sure.
So that kind of is the process.
Very good. Thank you. Very good explanation. Board,
My question was answered, Mr. Chair, thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead,
I have
please.
two questions. If we can go back one slide to that shows that MA estate collections. And we're looking at,
One more.
one more, there we go. We're looking at $437,000 plus dollars. Is that the 25% that Morrison County receives? Or is that the total and Morrison County receives the 25%?
That is Morrison County's share.
So we could say, or it's conceivable to say that estates that were in process this past year would have been about $1.6 million. If we're receiving 25%, and it's 400,000, we're probably 1.7 million that went through the process of property.
That's correct. The graph, the left side shows what the state and federal share was. And then the right side is showing Morrison County's share of that. So if you take the light browns for this year and combine those, that would be the total amount that was actually collected toward MA estate recovery, with the county getting the 437,000.
Some of it is 25%, some of it is 50%, so it depends upon the reason for the collection. So that's why it's not a straight 25%.
Okay. Mr. Chair, the other question I had in relation to foster care services, or the source of that money that goes to foster care, and you said that money could be in jeopardy if the legislature decides to eliminate our access to that. That's really revenue coming from parents of the children that are placed out of home. Is that correct?
That's correct. It might be their child support is redirected, it might be a fee that the family has due to their income. I don't believe the Social Security payments are in this.
It is.
And when we redirect Social Security for kids who are receiving Social Security.
So, and really, that becomes that last line of accountability by these parents from a fiscal standpoint in relation to the health, safety, and welfare of their children.
Yes. Yep. So part of it is, part of the argument is that we want to make sure the family maintains a home for the child to go back to. But the other, what's not showing in this is all the other items that we support families with to try to help them reunify with their kids. So this is just one of those factors that will help maintain a child, but then we still have additional costs. So how the state how this rolls out, or how the state decides to determine what they're going to do with child support, Social Security, and parental fees could have an impact on our budget.
Yeah, I'm looking at the long-term impact of a decision by the legislature in this manner. Not just how it affects us immediately, but going forward, how we are able to address those needs of these children going forward. So I have some very strong concerns with the legislature, sticking their fingers into this pie here. But thank you both, Bonnie and Brad. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything, Commissioner Wincher?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I understand pretty much the whole concept, but going back to this foster care, okay, so, and I understand the breakdown, 25, 50. Again, I don't know where the dollar amount we get from the federal amount. But if foster care costs $100, we know it costs more than that, but trying to make it much simpler. And we can't collect that from that parent just because they're deadbeat or whatever it may be. The taxpayer has to pick the rest of it up, because if they don't have the funding, I'm assuming then that's where, the taxpayers pay that, whether it's in the county or the state.
Yep, correct. The state has always been very limited in their support of out-of-home placement costs. It's always been bore generally on the backs of local governments. And so it's been an issue we've talked with the state about for a long time relative to the costs of care versus what percentage the state supports those efforts, so.
And I understand, it's difficult to get foster parents. I mean, that's a big thing right now. I mean, we're going forward. So, and I see, that we as a county tries to collect as much as they can from these parents that, are, we won't go into that, but like I say, I understand, so thank you for that.
Yeah, Commissioner Lemire.
Under this MA estate recovery, does it, like individuals that go into nursing homes or anything like that, is that part of that too? To pay for their stay?
Yes, that's all part of what we look at when we get the number from the state. That will include
That'll be
those
part of that.
fees, yeah. And we don't look at anything until the person is deceased, or if there happens to be a spouse, then we have to wait for both of them to pass before we can look at what we have for possible recovery.
Okay. What about if there's family members, sons, daughters left around? Do they have the capability of purchasing their property?
Yes.
And then you use that money to pay for the MA estate recovery?
Yeah, we try to work with all the families. We will negotiate some settlements and such. Vehicles are something we can also take for recovery, and, that's a lot of work for possibly not a lot of money. So if a family member wants to purchase it, we'll look at the estimated market value and then talk about somewhere meeting on an amount on that. So we do try to work with everybody.
Thank you, Bonnie.
And just as a follow-up, so if it's the last living parent, and they go into a nursing home, generally before they're eligible for medical assistance, our long-term care unit will look at those assets before they even approve medical assistance. So the family would have to spend down a number of those assets even before they're on medical assistance, so.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blaine.
Mr. Chair, to Brad, I know you do a lot of work and a lot of communication with AMC on issues of concern, especially in Health and Human Services, and I'm really having a hard time getting my arms around the legislature's idea of messing with this ability for counties to, to have this source of revenue when every year since I've been on this county board, the biggest driver to our levy has been out-of-home placements. And when you talk to more senior county commissioners from around, especially rural Minnesota, that's the biggest driver. Now, we could argue this past year that inflation maybe played a bigger trump card, but that's I look at that as an anomaly. And so do we have to have a greater communication with AMC and with other counties in trying to educate the legislature on the importance of this and what this would do to county budgets and county economics going forward here? Your thoughts?
Oh, well, and I should back up a little bit too, because the federal government has been reviewing this as well. So child support at the federal level has, previously we were required to redirect child support. The federal government now has moved that to a May as well. So I think it's a movement nationwide, with now our state looking at it, just because the fact that are we punishing parents who are struggling already financially? So that is the balance. How do you hold parents accountable while still ensuring that they have enough to maintain the home for that child? So, and then So we have done a lot to try to maintain families in their homes while we have kids in out-of-home placement because we know that that's critical. And so, you know, that's the balance between the revenue that we receive to help offset our out-of-home placement costs versus maintaining a family within their home and being able to afford food, shelter, clothing, those kinds of things. So, but to your original question, we have been working hard as a state organization, AMC and MAXA, on ensuring that the state takes a look at how do they backfill the costs that counties are incurring in out-of-home placements. And as I said earlier, we have been pretty persistent with the legislature on the fact that a lot of out-of-home placement costs are borne on the back of taxpayers, regardless of what we collect from out-of-home placement, because that's about a tenth of what we pay for out-of-home placement. So even with that, trying to get the state to support some of these efforts is important across the board.
My fear is if state or federal governments, steps forward, they make this change prohibiting our ability to recover some of that revenue and say that they will send the money to backfill this. I think we've seen over the years that may happen on the front end, but as time goes by, they continually back away from that obligation and shift that burden back to the counties, who are the ones who are really enacting the opportunities there. So I have a lot of concerns about this, but probably very limits on what we can actually do. Thank you for being here this morning.
Anything further from the board? I think that's it. Brad, Bonnie, thank you very, very kindly. Thank you. Next item of business is going to be the sheriff's office, sheriff's report. Morning, Sheriff. Morning, Mr. Brummer.
You're exactly right.
Sorry.
So we'll start with the January report. I do have our jail programmer, Tim Brummer, with. We're going to talk a little bit about rec, but I'll just do a quick summary of the monthly report, and then I'll probably turn it over to Tim, and we'll talk about our rec program that we recently had in last month. So we'll just kind of skip down to the training, if you will. I just kind of want to highlight a couple things for training in the month of January. We attended Camp Ripley. We utilized their shoot house. We basically worked on room clearing, light, no light, scenarios, shoot, no shoot scenarios. And that was members of the sheriff's office. And then we train with all the small town police departments as well, which is good because we need to know how each other is going to react to be trained the same way when we go into scenarios like this out in the field. So training was really good that month. It's nice to have a heated place too when it's cold outside. Criminal complaints, we had 67. I'll just kind of highlight the biggest portions. We had 9 DWIs, we had 8 disturbing the peace, and we had 8 damage to property. The DWIs, it's kind of high. Normally, we're not averaging that much, so I had our office support supervisor break this down, and I just got a text from her. 4 out of the 9 DWIs were drug-related, and then I had her look into each case file to see what drugs were involved. 3 of those were meth, and 1 of those was heroin. So kind of interesting statistics. Normally, across the board, we'd see maybe a handful of DWIs, primarily all alcohol. Now we're starting to see a spike of controlled substances being used. So moving forward to our traffic citations, you'll notice we had 230 verbal warnings for the month of January. We had 26 written warnings and then 14 citations for speed. So I did a comparison of last year where we were January 2022, and we had 122 traffic citations. So sometimes that's dependent on whether or not we're doing extracurricular activities like TZD, Towards Zero Deaths, Otherwise, it kind of dependent on the road condition, weather conditions, things of that nature. The two-year comparison did spike because of the number of traffic citations that we issued. Criminal complaints went down, non-criminal complaints were up. Civil papers, you'll see, were 10 higher than last year at this time. Drug investigations have gone up, and our total number of inmates have gone up a little as well. If you look at our inmate page, we housed inmates from Beltrami County, Itasca County, and Coochin County. And if you include the audit county inmates as well as Morrison County inmates, we averaged 44. If you go to the next page, I'll just kind of highlight our out-of-county inmates. Number of inmates held for other counties, we had 37, and we brought in revenue of $25,615. So all in all, a pretty good month. Beltrami, we've been in talks with Beltrami. They've reached out to our jail administrator. We're potentially looking for a contract right now, Beltrami is, to put in place. Initially, it was a one-year contract where they wanted to house some of their inmates here, and now they want to do a two-year. So they have to get that approved. They're working through their county board right now, but hopefully at some point, once everything's reviewed and our county attorney has reviewed it, I'll be back in front of you going over that contract. So with that, if there's any questions, I'll take them.
Questions for the sheriff?
None from me, Mr. Chair.
You know what, I'm gonna throw a dumb question out there at you, Sheriff. Now, again, you bring up the drugs. Again, I think the state is trying to pass a law where now you can have so much marijuana. I don't know if that's all coming through, but is it more difficult to test somebody if they're just on drugs versus alcohol, or are we modernized for that now too?
It's a good question, Commissioner. So out on the street, if we run into somebody on a traffic stop that we believe is driving under the influence, whether it's alcohol and or drugs, we're gonna still have them go through field sobriety if we have driving conduct. The key word is we gotta have driving conduct. We gotta have that reasonable suspicion to be able to even pull them over. In other words, are they driving and they're crossing the center lane multiple times? Or is it erratic driving? Are they crossing the fog line? We have to have some reason to pull them over to begin with. And then normally, typically, if it's alcohol, you smell that. Some of these other drugs you may not smell. But our reasoning for pulling them out of vehicle would be their driving conduct. And then we would do field sobriety tests, i.e. the one-legged stand, walk and turn, maybe some balancing tests. And then if we have enough to believe that they're under the influence of something, yes, we can make the arrest. However, with alcohol, it's kind of nice because we call it like a roadside test. We have a preliminary breath test, a PBT it's called, which I just insert a straw, have the person blow into that instrument, and it's going to give me their BAC, blood alcohol concentration, where we won't have that necessarily on the street. But what we would do then, if we made the arrest based on the driving conduct and i.e. the person failing field sobriety tests, we'd bring them to the jail and then we would offer them a urine and or blood test. And at that point, we wouldn't get immediate results, until weeks to come. But it would still get charged through our system, through our court system.
It sounds like it's a little bit more work.
Absolutely.
That's sad.
Comments for the sheriff? Tim, I think it's your turn, my friend.
If I can just highlight a couple things. First off, Tim does a phenomenal job, so do the Wellies and Daryl and Bev Welly with the REC program. REC, again, is Residents Encountering Christ. To be able to bring this program into our jail, and this was the 50th program, 50th REC program, it's just amazing because a lot of times we focus on the negativity. Now we can look at some positive things going into the jail, right? So I'm thankful for everybody, and I was just glad that I got to show up this year and speak to the staff, the volunteers, and the inmates, and I thank them for basically just coming out of their comfort zone, if you will, and attending the two-day treat REC program, and just asked everybody to just open their minds, open their hearts, and allow Jesus to be able to work through them. And we talked about this in the past, if one person, one inmate can benefit from this, then it's well worth it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim. He can talk about the program.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to start by welcoming Mr. Casper to the Morrison County team. Congratulations. Pleasure working with you going forward. We had our rec program, the 50th, as the sheriff said, on January 7th and 8th. Out of 36 inmates in the jail that were eligible to go to the program, 27 went. So only 9 inmates that were eligible, because you got to remember, we got some in a higher classification, and the DOC says if they're in a higher classification, I can't mix them, so my hands are somewhat tied, so some can't go. Or if some are here pre-sentence, they still could be under the influence of alcohol or drugs, they can't go. So 27 or 36 went. We had over 30 volunteers. We had 2 priests. It was awesome. We had singing, we had dancing, we had testimonials, we had church. The sheriff showed up and did just a phenomenal speech. It got into a lot of people's minds, into a lot of people's hearts. I think to look at going forward, this program needs to continue. I know as long as I'm here, it's going to continue, and it's going to keep getting stronger and stronger. It does help inmates. It's a proven fact. I see inmates after they're released from time to time, and one of the first things they mention is this rec program. I seen an former inmate, Sunday morning at Casey's, and he come up and talked to me, and he said, "Thanks for everything you've done. You changed my life." It's good to hear, and I don't want nothing out of it. All I want is to help these people and try to make them better. The thing that I need to continue to understand is if I'm here and I put the inmates here, we ain't getting anywhere. It's going to be a train wreck. We're all right here. This is where we're at, folks. This is where we're at. We all bleed red. We're all human. We're all God's people. We're all God's children. And I try to help these folks as much as I can. This rec program is phenomenal. We have a mini reunion on the following Friday night where a bunch of volunteers come back and see the inmates that are still there. Some usually are gone by then, but they come back and see them, and it is phenomenal. It's 2 hours. They're praying, they're singing, they're visiting, talking about the weekend, what happened, their steps going forward. As not only an inmate, but a human. These are still fathers, mothers. They have family out there all over. And if we don't do nothing or try to do anything, I've failed. I've totally failed. I've failed. And that's why I so strongly, and praise God for the sheriff that's so strongly as well, supports this program. I work for this county. This is my home. That sign says it right there. I work for this county. And when I'm out and about in the county, I represent the county, and I know that. When people come up to me and they ask me a question or they thank me for something, it makes me feel good about who I am and what I've done. And I'll continue to help these people till the very last day I'm here. And if anybody's got any questions, the next rec is late July of 2023. That'll be Rec 51. And we're looking forward to it already. We've already had a couple meetings on it. So if anybody's got any questions, comments, anything, I'd be happy to answer them.
Tim, I don't have any questions. Of course, I've always got a comment, you know that. Phenomenal program. As you very clearly know, I was there for a long time in the early days when there was no such thing as programs like this. None. I absolutely concur, totally agree with what you just said. It makes a difference. It takes people like you to make that difference. And I truly believe that. I have no reason to tell you anything different, and you've known me for a long time. I do believe in it. As long as I'm here, that program will continue to go.
Thank you.
Board. Please, go
I
ahead.
just want to say thank you for your passion, Tim, and it's nice to see you, and it's nice to have you within Morrison County and doing the great work that you're doing. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And again, by looking at this photo here, I recognize a few of these people in the photo, and they're also very strong in the community, and they even help out. I know they employ some of the, the people that are, kind of falling off their way, and they bring them back. So again, that's an influence on you to influence on them, and again, it's a great program. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Further comments? Commissioner Casper?
Yes, I'd just like to thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Tim. You guys are making a difference for Christ's sake. And that's what changes lives. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it.
I think because people were given less opportunity than probably us in this room, we don't look at that. We look at it as we want to try to help them. Maybe it's not their fault. Maybe some things didn't go their way. I had a good meal growing up. I went to church. I had a mom and dad that loved me and cared about me. A lot of these people don't. So if we don't help them when they're in here, what good have we really done? As an employee of this county, that it would not be fair. It wouldn't be fair to even us. Like I said, with his great support and, you know, the volunteers, of course, there's a ton of them, and every one of them are nothing short of awesome. They're nothing short of awesome. They're phenomenal. Daryl and Bev Welly are the coordinators. They do a phenomenal job putting this thing together. And it helps. Believe me, it helps. It helps.
Anything further from the board? Very good. Sheriff, I just want to thank you. Several months ago, when you came before the board along with Tim and you talked about the rec, the program, I did ask, and I specifically asked, bring Tim back. Bring Tim back after the program. I want to hear about it. I want to thank you, Sheriff, for that. It's a big deal. And Tim, thank you. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
Have a good day. Stay
Have a good
safe
day.
and keep smiling. Next item of business is going to be the extension report, and I see Samantha is here today with us.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right. I have just a few updates today. So I'm still working on the share table project. I started that at the beginning of the school year. So this is something the Little Falls School District had done pre-COVID, and we're kind of bringing it back. I think it's the University of Illinois. They're doing a multi-state project, and Minnesota is included in that. And I'm working with Knight Elementary and Lindbergh Elementary just to kind of gather data on the success of the share table or share cart project. And the goal of this is just kind of making sure any food is safely collected, and any uneaten food from the school meals kind of gets worked back into the next school meal or that current school meal. So, for example, I just did an observation at night last week, and I'm doing Lindbergh in about an hour. So, but any uneaten food that's still like safely packaged, like milk, packaged fruit, even like bananas that's still in the peel, like the kids they have to take because they're required to take so many food items, but they not hungry, don't want it. They can put it on the share cart, and kids who are still hungry, that still need that extra food, can take that food. It's a great way to reduce food waste and get that extra food to those kids who are hungry. I am getting a lot of great feedback from the food service staff. There's been some ups and downs. It's starting to slowly pick up and get used more and more now, especially by the older kids. I see it being a lot of the first, second graders putting food on the cart, and a lot of the fourth, fifth graders that are older and hungrier taking the food off the cart. So it's definitely getting a lot more use, and I'm really excited to see that. I believe they're actually starting to even push it out to some of the other schools. I'm just observing how it's working in Knight and Lindbergh. I'm doing actually a lot of my work is with the schools. I've done a lot of my Go Well with fruits and vegetables. That's a direct education course, so we focus on healthy eating, primarily that fruit and vegetable intake. I come in, I do a little sampling with the kids. They get to try fruits and vegetables. This month we were doing tan and white, so I've done a little fun taste test with them with parsnips, cauliflower, and coconut. They're really enjoying it. I'm getting a lot of great feedback from the teachers. They really love having me back in the class. That's something during COVID I had to do virtually, which just isn't quite as impactful. I'm still setting up my monthly flyer fitness calendars. So this is something we started during COVID, just trying to keep kids active and increase that physical activity. And it had such great feedback. We're just, instead of having kids doing it during their school day, when they're doing e-learning days, we just have it sent home to do with their families, and they turn it back in for a fun little gift or prize or whatever each month. And I think we're seeing a little bit more of an increase on that this year than we did last year. I am part of the One Vegetable, One Community Committee in Morrison County. So that is being run with me, master gardeners, I think we have a representative from Purple Carrot Market, Sprout, and this year we even got someone from Social Services to kind of join our community, so we're slowly expanding. Last week, our vegetable of the year is peppers, so we decided to do half bell pepper, half jalapeno. And we got such great feedback last year that we've increased our seed packets that we plan to give out from 1,000 last year to 2,000 this year. So we started putting seed packets together last week. So I think Social Services put together about a couple hundred for us last week, and we're hoping to get those out, distributed for planting about early to mid-March. What else? We're actually started expanding it to more of the schools and kind of push out. We started really focusing like last year with just, the Little Falls School District, but we really are reaching out to Piers, Ruralton, Uppsala, all those other schools and trying to get them included, not only with OVOC, but some of our other projects that have proven to be successful in the Little Falls School District as well. We're even going to do some sampling to kind of promote One Vegetable Community. Next week in the schools, we're going to do a pepper quinoa salad in all the schools during lunch period next week. So that'll be kind of fun to get the kids geared up and excited for their vegetable this year. And I am currently working on setting up a food service training in the Little Falls School District. I've had quite a few requests when I go in to do my observations of the share cart about food allergies. They're seeing more kids with food allergies, and they just would like that food allergy training. So I'm working on setting that up, and we're going to see if we can kind of push it out to all the schools in Morrison County to do a food allergy training, hopefully this spring still, but for sure before next school year. I think that is all I currently have going on.
I think you have a whole pot full of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the seed program again? What
Yeah.
grades does everybody
Everybody.
participate?
There's no limit. It's we focus on the schools because they're just an easy target. I think out of the 2,000 seed packets so far, 700, maybe 800 are going to schools.
Oh, wow.
I think about 100 to each of the libraries, so 100 to Piers, 100 to Little Falls. I reached out to 4-H, they're gonna take some seed packets. I reached out to, I have a contact at Head Start, they're gonna see if they can kind of set up a planting day with maybe parents and the little ones to do with OVOC. And then Social Services is gonna put out seeds. Anybody that wants, there's no age limit, there's no income limit, the goal is just to try to get people planting this vegetable, kind of talking about it. We're gonna encourage people to go to our Facebook page for growing tips, harvesting tips, share recipes, hopefully share pictures of their progress of their plant, kind of community engagement. And then, growing vegetables, hopefully eating more vegetables, so.
Excellent, excellent. I won't keep you all day, but I do have one more.
Oh, I love questions.
Just to go with. So what kind of a result have you gotten in past years to bring you to where you are today? What have you been told from me, who's planted a seed and actually harvested something? Can you expand on that at all?
Well, it kind of took a slowdown during COVID. We did have some feedback of families, posting some pictures, especially the year after COVID, last year, saying, I grew, this with my grandson, and they had so much fun, like just that learning process. In fact, all the classes I did Go Wild with, I'm going back into plant with those kids. So they have that familiar face, and then we're going to have kind of compare, like having them watch their plant grow and make observations and kind of work that into maybe like a science lesson or part of their
Excellent.
school lessons.
And just one more thing. I know that we have food shelves that are used routinely in the county. I'm very well aware of that. Would it help, or do you think, and I know you're also part of that,
Oh, yeah.
to bring seed packets there? If I was going to plant a radish, or whatever,
Yeah.
a pepper.
Yeah, the
is
pepper
what
this
we're
year.
talking about, and I had just a little container, I could grow a pepper. Do we think about that?
I'm thinking about reaching out to the food shelves in Morrison County. It's been a couple of years. I think pre-COVID, they gave out seed packets, but there wasn't a lot of take.
Okay.
But with their increase of interest, there might be better take this year.
Okay.
So that's a good idea. I should try that again.
Very good, thank you. Board,
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair, Samantha, so with the distribution of the seed packets and that, so are the kids in the schools, are they actually planting them and using them within their time in the school?
Some are, some aren't. I don't know if all the schools are gonna plant or just send their seed packets home. That I can't say for all the schools. I know some are gonna do the planting in the school, and then once they have like their little plant, they'll send it home to be transplanted into maybe a pot or something at home.
And so the reason I mention that is, in years past, in my work with the Minnesota Farm Bureau, they had an excellent program to help young kids in the classroom understand gardening and understanding planting, and they had a project called Garden in a Glove, where they would take a rubber glove and you would put a seed in a cotton ball in each of the fingertips, and the kids would write their name on the glove. They'd tape that glove onto the window in the classroom, and of course, as the magic has it, these plants would grow, and so then and they would write on each finger on the glove, this is a carrot, this is a squash, whatever. It was a tremendous program, and it gave the opportunity for the kids then to monitor the growth of that plant within the classroom, and then at that point in time where then they could take that glove, take those plants home, take them out, plant them, transplant them, and go forward. So I just wanted to mention that as a vehicle, if some of the classrooms are looking for an opportunity, and I thought it was very successful. But this is probably, I'm going to date myself back to maybe 10 years ago when I seen that. But
That sounds familiar, and I'll look into that again, but it'd be something at the very least to share with schools as an option.
Yep, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Minnesota Farm Bureau is still not sponsoring that program in some schools throughout rural Minnesota. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that opportunity.
Further discussion? Hearing none, Samantha, thank you very, very kindly. It's always a pleasure to have you stop in.
Awesome, thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
All right, next item of business is going to be the Public Works Report. Tony?
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Tony.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. We have a handful of items here this morning, all pertaining to our bid lettings this spring so far. The engineering staff's been very busy, so we're going to review some contracts and some abstracts, and then make some recommendations for everyone. Our first one should be our contract for CASA 1, contract 306. This is a federal project going from Randall up to our CASA 5 there. Take a look, we had a bid letting in January on the 18th. We were very fortunate, we had a lot of interest in this project. We had 5 bidders. The engineer's estimate for this project was just shy of $3 million at $2.829 million. And with that, we had a range of bids. Our low bidder coming in at just, well, not even, at 3% over, $2.830,658. And our high bidder came in at almost 31% over at $3.7 million. So with that, we had a lot of interest. Again, this is a federal project, a lot of outside funds coming in, about 1.8 million, almost 1.9 million of federal funds that we're utilizing for this. The rest of those funds are coming in from state aid. So with that, I would recommend authorizing the resolution to award this contract 306 to our low bidder, which is Anderson Construction Company of Brainerd.
I'll make a motion.
Got a motion, is there a second? Got a motion, a second, further discussion? Hearing none, this is going to be a roll call vote. Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Blaine?
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Casper?
Aye.
and myself, Commissioner Jelinski, as an aye vote, that motion passes.
All right, our second contract is contract 305. We had this bid letting on the 26th of January. This is our CASA 6 bridge over by Sobieski. Again, we had some pretty good interest in this project. If you review the abstract, we had 3 bidders. The engineer's estimate on this project was just over 1.4 million. We had bids ranging from 1.353 million all the way to 1.396. All bids were underneath our estimate. Our low bidder came in at just over 5% underneath our estimate. I would like to request authorization to award this contract 305 to Redstone Construction in the amount of $1.353069 million.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, a second, further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, another roll call vote, Commissioner Lemire?
Aye.
Lane?
Aye.
Wincher?
Aye.
Casper? Aye. And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, is an aye vote. Thank you.
Our third one is contract 308. This is a federal project. We had some highway safety improvement funds for doing multi-component pavement markings or your fog lines. This project, we had 3 different bidders on this. Again, this was a good turnout for this kind of project. We had an engineer's estimate of $280,000 and estimates or bids coming in at all the way from $230,000, almost 18% under, all the way to 3%, just shy of 3% over at $288,000. Our low bidder was Warning Lights of Minnesota. And I would recommend the authorization to award contract 308 to Warning Lights in the amount of $230,523.
I'd look for a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Is there further discussion?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
The map that we have here, you have like 1, 2, 6, 7 rows. That's where we're gonna do the fog lines, or am I looking at this wrong?
Nope, that is correct. So this is a highway safety improvement project. The whole county has a safety improvement plan that was done for it. And one of the items outlined in the plan that can make your roads safer is enhanced pavement markings. And our multi-component pavement markings, it's a epoxy marking that shines a little bit brighter, has some thicker beads, and has a longer wearing life. So with that, we submitted this project just to do the fog lines on these roads. This is separate from our maintenance striping, which will come at a different time.
Thank you for that.
On that same line, as long as we're talking about it, you're talking about fog lines. We're not talking center line. We're talking just fog line on this in particular bid.
Sir.
Okay. Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, this is also a roll call vote. Commissioner Casper?
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski is an aye vote. Commissioner Blaine?
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Wincher?
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you.
And our final one, this is our paving projects for the year. This is to review our County Road 253 projects, our 254, 255, and then a 47 project. So we're kind of spread out a little bit, but a lot of the work's located around Pierce. Again, we had a lot of interest. We had a bid letting last week for this, so we're really happy with where these bids came in at. We had an engineer's estimate on this contract of about $3.9 million. And we saw a range of bids with the low bidder coming in 13% underneath at $3.433 million, and our high bidder coming in at $4.44. So engineer's estimate kind of split that. Our low bidder was Anderson Brothers out of Brainerd. So I'd recommend authorization for a resolution to award contract 310 to Anderson Brothers Construction of Brainerd, Minnesota in the amount of $3.433 million.
I'd look for a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Further discussion?
I'd just like to say, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
This isn't the first time we're hearing about all these projects. These projects were discussed at our Public Works Facility meeting on the first Friday of this month. So I just don't want everybody out in TV land to think that we're just
Good
plowing
point.
through these, because
Absolutely.
we are, but
Good point.
we had a lengthy discussion on all these.
We also covered them at the regular planning sessions, and we went through the 2023 Transportation Improvement Plan at a prior board meeting. So the state has been available.
Good job on that.
We also have some other stuff in the works that we're considering maintenance items, but is separate from our contracts where we bring in large contractors.
Thank you. Thank you for that,
Further
Tony.
discussion?
Mr. Chair, to that point, too, we've also had, Tony's always has given us that window of time between when this is first presented to the board for consideration at a planning session or at a Public Works planning meeting, then to this point in time. So we've had, ample weeks of time to ask him questions and clarifications on this, which many of us have taken advantage of that opportunity prior to this board action.
Absolutely. Further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote, and I'll start it off. Commissioner Jelinski is an aye vote. Commissioner Wincher?
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Blaine?
Aye.
Casper?
Aye.
That motion passes.
Mr. Chair, that's all I have for you this morning, unless there's any other questions.
Tony, thank you very kindly. Anybody have any further questions for
It's good
Tony?
to see we're saving a little money there when the bids are coming in cheaper. That's very.
Yeah, we were very happy with those numbers, especially that last contract. The pavement actually came in underneath what we were thinking, so we're very fortunate to have a lot of bidders that were looking at our contracts. So,
I think, Mr. Chair, it's also, we also have to recognize the efforts of Tony and his staff to have this work prepped so that we're on the front end of the construction season for bidding, and I think that helps us in achieving some very competitive bids out there too. You and your staff have had to do a lot of work over the holidays and the beginning of the year just to get this stuff ready, and we recognize your efforts.
I appreciate that. Morrison County is very fortunate to have a fantastic engineering staff. We have a team of engineering techs that they live and breathe this stuff, and they do a fantastic job in Carolina County.
Job, Tim.
Tony?
Absolutely, but like I said, it's a team effort, so.
Thank you very kindly, Tony.
Thank you,
Appreciate
everyone.
it.
Thank you, Tony.
Ready, have a good day. It's 10:06. Before we get into the administrator's report, we're going to take a 5-minute break,
Perfect.
starting right now.
That's a good idea.
And our next item of business is going to be the administrator's report. I'm going to turn to Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple items before we get into today's resolution. The first is I've informed the board of the AMC Legislative Conference this week. That was scheduled to start this afternoon and go through Thursday. Due to the impending weather, AMC has moved to a Zoom or virtual format. So I know when I discussed this with the board, nobody had planned on attending at the time. Just in the event that someone had changed their mind, I wanted to put that information out. The second is, yesterday I received a note from Katrina Wood of Sourcewell, and she is asking if Morrison County would like to send 2 representatives to their representative assembly meeting, which is also when they hold their Students of Character celebration. I believe we typically send the chair and the vice to that event, but that event is on April 19th. I don't need to know now, but if there are 2 members of the board that are interested, well, first off, if the board wants to attend at all, and second, if there are 2 that are interested in attending, I can give that information back to them.
Please share that with us on email or something.
Okay.
Thank you.
Will do. Okay, Mr. Chair, and the last item here is the resolution, and this process began back in August on receipt of a resignation of our auditor-treasurer, seated auditor-treasurer, and has continued on very deliberately, most recently on January 17th, when the county board held a public hearing to receive input on the future of the auditor-treasurer position. And today I bring before you a resolution to appoint the office of the auditor-treasurer as allowed by Minnesota State Statute 375A 1205. And I think it would just be easy enough if I read the resolution, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Whereas August 23rd, 2022, the Morrison County Board of Commissioners accepted the resignation of County Auditor Treasurer effective September 16, 2022. And whereas Minnesota State Statute 375A 1205 allows the county board to appoint certain offices, including the County Auditor Treasurer. And whereas Morrison County posted public notice for 2 consecutive weeks and held a public hearing with public testimony on January 17, 2023 at 6 p.m. regarding the appointment of the Auditor Treasurer. And whereas the County Board of Commissioners recognizes the benefits of having an appointed person in the position of the Auditor-Treasurer because it promotes efficiency and consistency of county business with a qualified individual to oversee a broad spectrum of complex issues within the Auditor-Treasurer's office. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Morrison County Board of Commissioners hereby notifies the public of its desire to make the office of County Auditor-Treasurer not elected but filled by appointment, effective 30 days after the adoption of this resolution.
Thank you, Matt. I would look for a motion.
So moved for more
Second.
discussion.
Got a motion, I've got a second, and now I will look for discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lemire.
Well, I hope you guys can bear with me here. I did a lot of research. I sent a lot of emails. One of the things I did is I wanted to see what the administrative roles are of the county treasurer position. So I found it on the Department of Revenue site, and the duties that county auditor treasurers perform are outlined in Minnesota Statute Chapter 384. And I'm just going to read some of them.
Please.
They maintain the official financial records of the county. They sign all warrants issued against the county and oversee monthly trial balances. Calculate the tax capacity rates for all taxing jurisdictions. They send truth in taxation and annual tax statements to taxpayers. Collect delinquent taxes and distribute collections to proper taxing districts. Collect special assessments for cities and townships. Prepare the issuance of tax abatements. Identify, track, and implement legal proceedings of the tax forfeiture process and conduct tax forfeiture land sales. Administer all aspects of tax increment financing. Record all county proceedings and assess any payments ordered by the ditch boards. Act as the chief election administrator for the county. Serve as the deputy registrar for the county. Keep a full and accurate account of all monies received. Invest excess county funds in order to receive the highest and safest return for the county. Keep public funds separate from any private funds of any person. Apply legislative updates to office procedures. Maintain and balance the checkbook, cash book, it says. Direct day-to-day operations of the treasurer's office. Prepare and deposit county funds and account transfers. balance and close all ledger accounts for the previous year and prepare reports for audit purposes for the state audit team at the end of the year, work with brokers, banks on certificates of deposits and investments, mail statements and accept payment for real estate not delinquent, mail truth and taxation notices, maintain the escrow listing and escrow transactions, maintain mailing addresses on the tax system, maintain tax books showing taxes paid, provide tax searches for the general public, real estate agents, mortgage companies, and escrow agencies, collect deed tax and mortgage registration, and they're also responsible for elections, and they administrate the county's function of federal, state, and local elections, which include absentee voting, ballot layout, candidate filings, election judge training, election recounts, election tabulation, and voter registration, and there was more, but I quit because I didn't want to bore you. I also, because I believe I should do my due diligence to see how other counties doing with their appointed positions, so I received a list of all counties in the state of Minnesota, and all those that were appointed, with the exception of executive models that use the manager model, and with those that use the auditor-treasurer model. I mainly concentrated my efforts towards the administrator model, which Morrison County follows. I believe this to be an important decision, so I did my due diligence and asked counties across Minnesota who appoint their auditor-treasurer how the appointed position was going for their county and their constituents. I sent 42 emails asking that specific question and received 25 responses by email and 3 by phone for a total of 28 responses. 100% of those responses, 100% of those that responded said that it was a positive move for their county and believed that it was the best move for their county. I'm going to share with you some of the responses they shared with me. I'm not going to share all of them, but because a lot of them had the same things to say, so I just kind of went with those that were duplicate. They spoke of accountability and the ability to require education standards and qualifications. They said that it made their county more professional, efficient, and effective. They were able to streamline processes and services to provide for a one-stop shopping atmosphere for their citizens. They said it improved the culture of those departments, which made their county stronger. It ensured them that they were filling the role with someone who was prepared. It allowed them to increase efficiencies. They had better control of planning for the future. The interview process will get the most qualified person in the position. It ensured when there is turnover that the position can be filled with the most qualified person available. They can get someone who is experienced, knows what's expected, and understands county government. The appointment makes the position much more accountable. These days, with financial, technical skills, and advanced training needed to be auditor-treasurer for the county, appointment makes sense. Some of the counties also shared with me experiences with auditor-treasurers who weren't so good. They described it as a complete nightmare. One said they had to pay theirs to go away. One said they had to hire an outside firm to do the work of their inexperienced, incompetent auditor-treasurer because they never showed up for work. I'm supporting the position of auditor-treasurer going to appointed because the hiring decision will be based on qualifications, education, and the merit of the applicant. If we continue with having it elected, that candidate just needs to be 18 years of age and live within the county. That's it. Moving to an appointed position will ensure that the candidates are qualified for the position instead of hoping you get someone who is qualified for the position. When counties were first organized in the late 1800s, auditors had a more administrative role within the county. That administrative role changed with 1970s legislation that allowed counties the ability to go to an administrator-coordinated role, where Morrison County is an administrative role. This transition changed auditor-treasurer role into more of like a department head role instead of an administrative. And precedent has been established in Minnesota regarding the appointment of county auditor-treasurer. Minnesota statute 375A.1205 allows the county the ability to appoint. Elected Senate and House members, along with an elected governor, determined that it was a good idea to allow counties the ability to appoint their row officers. A majority of Minnesota counties appoint their auditor-treasurer. A majority, 51 out of 87. The trend is that more counties are making the change at an increased rate since the 2019 legislation, which streamlined the appointment process. Why do counties go to appointed versus elected? Well, it enables county the ability to recruit the most educated and qualified person to that position. It modernizes an archaic system. It avoids a situation where an unqualified individual is elected to the position and the only recourse is to wait 4 years for the next election. It will allow counties the ability to make operational changes to best serve their public, making services faster, better, and more economical for their constituents. State law provides and allows county the ability to appoint in order to be more adaptable and accountable around the customers we serve to provide better services at a lower cost. This allows commissioners the option to choose what's best for their constituents and their taxpayers. It gives them ability to ensure the position is filled with someone that is accountable, educated, and qualified. The elected commissioners will remain accountable to their constituents. And I also want to share that I also shared when I go to my committee meetings, I share this with them, and they were all supportive of going to appointed. They said it made sense because they believed getting the best person in the seat is best for the county. And that's all I have for right now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lemire. Anything further from the board? Commissioner Casper?
Yes. First off, I'd like to thank Commissioner Lemire. You did a knock-up job just going through that and seeking that out. Now, I'm going to speak in opposition here. I know it's not real popular, but while I recognize the reasons to appoint the position of auditor-treasurer put forth by my fellow commissioners, I respectfully disagree with the appointment because of the outcome of the public hearing held the evening of January 17th, 2022. At the hearing, 8 constituents came forward to voice their wish for an elected auditor-treasurer, with no one stepping forward to speak in opposition. Therefore, in good conscience, I believe I need to honor that outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Casper. Commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I'll just state a couple of things here that in support of moving to appointment. Number one, we've also heard from other elected officials. We've had township officials that have shared their concerns with having this position elected simply because of their understanding and/or admittance of lack of understanding of all the work that the person in this position is required to do. And for there to be no qualifications other than, as Commissioner Lemire stated, you need to be 18 years old and show residency within the county to have your name on the ballot. I heard very strongly from a number of individuals, including even past auditors and/or treasurers of our county and other counties, who said it's actually extremely important at this point in time, with all the responsibilities as Commissioner Lemire laid out, which is just a small sample of that workload that this person is responsible for, that we have the ability to hire someone that actually has qualifications to be able to perform that position. Especially when we're talking about the handling of the fiscal resources of county government. And that is just a slice of the workload of the auditor treasurer. But to me, being elected to be in this, which is also a fiduciary role of county governance, the importance of having someone that has fiscal qualifications, fiscal management qualifications, to be able to serve in this role is extremely important to me. I think the other part of this move to make this an appointed position versus an elected position is to provide something that I campaigned on when I first entered into this role, and I made it very public that being in governance, there was two things that were extremely important to me, and I believe are extremely important to county government, to the residents of the county, and that's accountability and transparency. And by having this position move to an appointed position, it gives the county board and the county residents a vehicle where this person's actions and acumen is held accountable to county government. And I think that's extremely important especially in this day and age. Two other points I'd like to make, Mr. Chair, if I may. I was also at that public hearing, as we all were, on January 17th, and I realized that we had 8 individuals who made their wishes known to keep the position elected. I look at that as, 8 individuals out of, I want to believe there's probably our total number eligible voters in Morrison County is probably in excess of 22,000. So I look at that as a very, very small sample size to me. But I also think that the thoughts at that time that were shared that this position has always been an elected position. And Commissioner Lemire, in his statements, has recognized for us the changes within government, especially on a state level, where state government has made this change to allow for appointment by county government. I'll take us back in time where we also had other positions that appeared on the ballot in that cycle, including the county assessor was on the ballot in the past. The county surveyor was on the ballot. I've never heard from one individual who has ever come to me, either in my 5 years as a county commissioner or prior, and in my positions previous in government service, ever come to me and say, boy, why can't we have the county assessor be voted on and be on the ballot again, or the county surveyor, or why can't we have the weed inspector be elected by the people? Change happens, and we see reasons why there has to be change and why it benefits. And as my colleague Commissioner Lemire has done a lot of background work on this, along with the rest of the board in having conversations and researching this. But 100% of the respondents who have made this change support the change they've made, and hear no rebuttal from their constituents that change was made. It's about good governance. And that's why we're here. And that's what we're charged to do. Being able to have the opportunity to put the most qualified individual in this position within county governance is, to me, is one of the most important responsibilities we have, and I don't take this lightly. Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing me that time.
Thank you. Commissioner Wincher?
All right, and again, I appreciate both your comments, and I appreciate Commissioner Casper's comments too. Again, I looked at the statute, but more importantly, I also, when I'm out and about, whether it's additional meetings, meeting with the public, I think those are the ones that I have to talk to because we're the ones that represent them. We heard over the past years that the elections could be fraudulent or whatever. I don't want to go down that path at this time. But again, what happens is, if we would put somebody in there as an elected official, who's to say that person knows anything about elections, anything about finances? This one is a big one with the finances, because again, you read in all the statutes, this auditor is going to be responsible, not just a few dollars, millions of dollars, that they're going to be responsible for you and us as county employees and county constituents in this area. It's like, I cannot see someone that can't handle their own money, or maybe, can or whatever, and shoot like a crapshoot and say, boy, I hope this person has good knowledge of finances, because you don't know. It's been brought to our attentions, about the county commissioners. We as county commissioners, we have to know a little bit of everything, 10% of this, 10% of that. So that makes me qualified as far as, because you got to get out there and understand what each department does, what all the people want. This county auditor, it's, again, Commissioner Lemire can read it over and over again. It's about handling our money and the election. So you want somebody that can be qualified and that we know that can do this job for all the people in this area. I look at, when I go talk to the people, and again, it's been brought up that there was 8 that stepped forward to here. That's less than 0.5% of 1% of the people that are coming, that are registered voters in this area. I talked to a couple of them. I talked to more than that, but 2 of them, this kind of hits home. They said that's what they elected us for, to make this decision. So those are things that they put us out there. That's what they do. So they put their hands in us as elected officials to say, yep, we're going to do what's right. And anybody knows me here, I'll do what I feel is best for the county and the people. I don't, listen to something that's, in a different state or whatever. I concentrate because this is a great county, and I'm going to do what I feel is best for the people here in the county. So I have no more on that one.
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't know that there's a great deal of anything that I can say that can top anything that's been said already today. I was elected to represent the people, as all of us were. I'm very supportive of the process of public hearings. You get to hear from people. This last public hearing, for the record, there was 8 people that addressed the county board. Can't remember exactly, Commissioner Blaine, 27,000 registered voters, rough numbers?
I'm going to guess,
22?
20, let's say 22 to 25,000.
Rough numbers. There was 8 people that spoke at a public hearing. When I was elected, when I talked to anyone, I made it very clear that we would not always agree. In fact, we would disagree from time to time, but that I would do the best job that I possibly could do. I was more than aware that Commissioner Lemire did the background here and the footwork. I was very aware of that. I've had different conversations with him in regards to it. Commissioner Casper, respectfully, I disagree with you. 8 people do not get to dictate how the county board votes. Opinion. 8 people did get to speak at a public hearing, and I respect that. I respect that very, very much. But at the end of the day, that also comes back to the county board that you see in front of you, that was elected to do the job, that was elected to do exactly what Commissioner Wincher said. We get to make that decision. Get to. Got to tell you, folks, get to sometimes comes with a lot of baggage, but that is the way it is. Is there anything further from the board? Anything further from the board? Gentlemen, this is a roll call vote. We've got a motion. We've got a second. We've had discussion. A roll call vote. Commissioner Casper.
Nay.
Commissioner Blaine.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
And myself, Commissioner Jelinski, is an aye vote. This motion takes a supermajority, takes 4 commissioners to pass this. This motion is passed. Matt?
Concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes?
If I may, I know we're going to be going to calendars here in
Yep.
a second, but I did want to go back to your first comments, Matt, about the AMC convention, the legislative convention this week, and that this is going to a virtual. Is there, and I'm looking to you and/or our deputy clerk here, will there be a link within our email that we would be able to link up to this for those of us who are not able to drive to the cities and that? Because obviously, we've talked about some issues here this morning within this board meeting that I think would be worthy of having some more communication, and this, by doing this virtually, gives some of us an opportunity to do that.
Mr. Chair, I'll take a stab. It is virtual. There is a link provided. They are producing the schedule for those that were registered, and that's the part that's unclear. If you weren't registered, they haven't put out if they're going to do a virtual registration cost. So that's the piece that's out there. Typically in these conferences, there's a in-person cost for registration and a virtual cost for registration. And to my knowledge, none of the commissioners are registered. If you were registered, then the link would be provided. If you are interested, I will reach out to AMC to see if there's a virtual option and what that registration fee is.
And I would appreciate that if we find out that it might be possible, and what that schedule would be in trying to balance that, the viability of paying that registration cost to attend virtually against the other obligations we have within our schedule. I will look for something via email from either of you.
And I do know that some of the subcommittees have sent out notification that it's gone virtual. So if you are a member of the subcommittee that's being discussed at that conference, you might see that as well. But there will be a note to follow, Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Commissioner Blaine, just for the sake of argument, I don't know about anyone else, but I sit on the Public Safety Committee with AMC. I have received a link to that now that they've changed that, because I was not going to be able to attend in person. Now I believe I will be able to attend that.
And thank you, Commissioner Jelinski. And I will go back and take a closer look too at my email in reference to this. And I knew with my schedule I was not going to be able to attend in person, and so that it may be simpler for me than what I'm actually perceiving. But
If I may, Mr. Chair, to you, Mr. Blaine, I just got an email here this morning from general government. I sit on that one, and that's a Zoom now again. I don't know what the dollar figures like that.
I don't think there is one
As
for
far as.
that, for your
Well,
general committee.
But I say, I'm talking about, I'm sure you'll get something, you know, what committee you sit on and go from there.
Well,
so.
with my obligations on Health and Human Services, and especially with the discussion we had this morning with Brad on some of these things, gives the, you know, it does give us the opportunity to weigh in now, especially when we can't attend in person, and they've switched this, so I think.
I got one too, so.
You did
Probably
too?
got one.
And
Okay.
again, I'll just read it. It says this is what it just says, an updated agenda including the Zoom link attached to the email. All members may attend the meeting even if they are not registered.
Yeah.
So,
Mint.
That's your subcommittee.
yep, that's your subcommittee.
Super. Super.
Okay. Gentlemen, anything further?
Got some dates?
Okay, we've got some calendars that we need to go through. I believe the dates are going to be the 26th through the 11th. Is that correct?
That's planning, we're gonna go through board, so we'll go through the 18th.
Through the 18th.
What was the days again?
26th,
February 26th?
yep, through March 18th. And I'm going to get things kicked off. The 27th, Monday, the 27th at 5:30 in the afternoon, Good Neighbors EMS Group meets at St. Gabriel's Hospital. On the 28th, 8:30 in the morning, here at the Government Center, planning meeting. At 6 o'clock that same evening, same location, Planning Commission Board of Adjustment meets. On Wednesday, March 1st at 11 o'clock in the morning, I've got a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Executive Committee meeting. On the 2nd, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting. The 7th of March, at 8:30 in the morning, we have a planning meeting. On the 9th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I've got a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Next Generation 911 meeting. On Friday, the 10th, 10 o'clock in the morning, the Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board RAC meeting. At 4:30 in the afternoon, on Friday, the 10th, we have a Morrison Todd Wadena Community Health Board meeting. I think I'm right, that this is held in Wadena at the Pizza Ranch, I believe.
What's that time?
4:30 in the afternoon, and that is for the entire board.
It's for the 3 or 4 county area.
It's for, yep, it's for Morrison, Todd, and Wadena. Not just the representatives to that board, but it's for everyone. Okay, on the 14th, at 9 o'clock in the morning, we've got a county board meeting. On the 16th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board Owners and Operators meeting. And I believe that's all I have. Commissioner Wincher.
You covered me on everything, so thank you very much, Commissioner Jelinski.
Commissioner Lemire.
You said February 26th through March 18th?
February 26th through March 18th, that's correct.
On the 28th, I have an aquatic invasive species grant application meeting at 11 o'clock. And I don't know where that's at. It doesn't tell me.
I believe it's up at the office.
We usually hold it in that last conference room on the very end. Yeah. Also at 6 o'clock that evening, there's a pipeline safety meeting held at the VFW. I probably won't make that. I haven't decided if I'm going to the planning commission or that yet. On the 1st, HRA at 0900. You got T-Schwack, right, Jeff?
No, I did not do T-Schwack.
T-Schwack on the 3rd.
Yep.
On the 7th, I have a mental health enrichment meeting, 2 o'clock, admin large conference room. On the 15th, I have public health, and that's held here in the boardroom. The 16th, I have a Long Prairie watershed at the Long Prairie Town Hall, or Government Center, Town Hall. And also that evening, or that afternoon at 2 o'clock, I have a safety committee meeting. It's to be determined the location. It's usually held in the Piers Conference Room. And that's all I got.
Commissioner Blaine?
Only thing I can add, I believe, is,
Why can't I change my password?
two things I can add. And maybe we got this. Did we mention on the 27th, the Quad County Extension meeting for commissioners from the 4 counties? That meeting is that morning. I don't even have a time on here yet, Tabitha, but that is, I believe, at the Stearns County History Museum, which would be Monday morning. That's a week from today, Monday morning. I want to stay, that usually starts at like 8:30 or 9 o'clock, and I'll try and get that to you. So that on the 27th, and then on March 16th at 7 p.m., the Egg Society will meet. Other than that, Mr. Chair, that's about all I have. You guys covered it.
Commissioner Casper?
Okay, Mr. Chairman. I have, on the 28th, I have a community development meeting that day. And then going on into March, I don't have much to add here. I have a Central Minnesota Council on Aging on the 2nd of March. And then we're going through the 16th, is that correct?
That's 18th.
The 18th, I'm sorry. So on the 13th, I have a 6 PM Agram Township meeting. And then the 16th, the Airport Commission, Little Falls Airport. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Tabitha, on the 15th, I missed because I was not prepared. At 3:30 in the afternoon, I've got a State Emergency Communications Board meeting. The Executive Committee meets. That's virtual. At 5:30 that same afternoon, or 5 o'clock, I think. At 5 o'clock that same afternoon, virtually is Hands of Hope.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I just got notice that the CHB in that meeting that you attend, the next is scheduled for May 10th, not March 10th.
May 10th.
Yep, just to free your
Thank you.
calendar.
Beautiful.
So that meeting at Wadena
Yep,
is May 10th
yep.
and not March 10th?
Perfect.
Mr. Chair, and maybe I missed this. Did you mention we have a Planning Commission BOA meeting on the 28th that evening?
I did at 6 o'clock.
Okay,
I think it's just Darling Township.
28th.
28th.
Gentlemen, anything further that needs to come before the board?
Oh, yeah, I had that down already, that meeting on May 10th.
You had it down already?
Yeah, I had it down for May 10th.
I don't know why I had perhaps my mistake. so
That's why we talk about this.
That's exactly right. Anything further, gentlemen?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
I'd second that.
Got a motion and a second, discussion on adjournment? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes, thank you. It is 10:52.
Good job, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.